The war in Afghanistan began shortly after the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon in 2001. The ongoing conflict has carried on for nearly 20 years, resulting in the death of over 2,000 U.S. servicemen and women and over 52,000 wounded. Over the course of the war, the U.S. military has engaged in battles with Al-Qaeda, Taliban, and ISIS forces. On one particular occasion, however, a United States Marine encountered a much different enemy. In today's episode, we will look into a demon attack which occurred in a graveyard in southern Afghanistan in 2009. In 2019, Netflix aired its second season of Haunted. In the episode titled Demon of War, a United States Marine describes his terrifying encounter with a demon in an Afghan cemetery. An American soldier identified only as Rick recounts his deployment to Afghanistan and describes numerous engagements he had facing Taliban forces. But when Rick's unit is assigned to a posting in the Bakwa district of southern Afghanistan, he encounters something much more terrifying than Taliban fighters. War is hell, but I never thought I'd experience something like this. I thought the worst was over, but I had no idea what was coming. Rick's unit was posted to a graveyard containing thousands of bodies. Rick is assigned to midnight watch duty. Several hours into his shift, all is very quiet. Even the air is still with not even a hint of a breeze. When all of a sudden, the silence is shattered by the crash of a rock striking the wall of Rick's watch post, followed by rustling noises and the sound of footsteps. Rick immediately contacts his superior, a U.S. Marine identified as Staff Sergeant Bravo. Bravo orders Rick to go out and investigate. Although a bit apprehensive about going out alone into a pitch-black cemetery with the potential of encountering enemy forces, Rick follows his orders as any good Marine would. Rick lights a flare and begins walking through the rows of gravestones. Rick checked row after row and neither saw nor heard anything. Rick made it to about the middle of the graveyard when his flare ran out. He quickly reached into his pack to retrieve another flare, but before he was able to light it, he heard rustling and shuffling noises coming from behind him. Rick immediately crouched down and remained silent. He did not light the flare as to not give away his position. He looked around in the darkness but could not see anything. Rick brought forward his weapon, which he was carrying slung over his shoulder, and chambered around as quietly as he could. Despite this, the slide and the clack of the round being chambered seemed deafeningly loud to Rick. He peered out into the darkness when suddenly he heard the shuffling and rustling, this time much closer and coming from his left, then from in front of him, and then to his right. Whoever was out there was running circles around him. After a moment, the rustling stopped, and all again was silent. Suddenly, Rick is surprised from behind by what can only be described as a creature from your worst nightmares. "There's these giant big red eyes, like burning through me," Rick said, describing the terrifying creature. I can see the flesh on this demon's face, and it's peeling off. It's ripping off and the skin's hanging off. I wasn't able to speak. I wasn't able to scream. All I wanted to do was blink because my eyes hurt so bad. I wasn't able to do anything. After all I'd been through, I thought that this demon, he was the one that was going to kill me. Rick snapped out of his initial shock and ran back to the command center without looking back. Staff Sergeant Bravo commented, "I've never had a Marine come to me and express this kind of story, especially with the detail and physical distress that comes with it. But I trusted this Marine." Staff Sergeant Bravo also added, "I have absolutely no doubt that it was real." Upon completing his tour of duty, Rick returned to the United States and struggled a bit as he readjusted to civilian life. Rick was finally able to put the trauma and horrors he experienced in Afghanistan behind him and began moving on with his life. Nearly 2 years after returning to the United States, Rick received a visit from the same terrifying demon he encountered that night in the Afghan graveyard. You can feel that he enjoyed it. He wanted me to be petrified of him. Him waking me up and showing his presence may have been his way of saying, "You're not welcome." Rick went on to say, "I know if he does come back, he's going to come back with a vengeance." Is it possible that a United States Marine encountered a vengeful demon while deployed in Afghanistan? Or was Rick suffering from PTSD, brought on by months of prolonged stress caused by being in a constant state of battle readiness? Although it is possible that Rick may have been experiencing hallucinations, it should be noted that he seemed to show no other symptoms of PTSD, and was said to be very credible by his squad leader. In any case, what occurred that night in an Afghan graveyard remains a mystery. This concludes today's episode of the Paranormal Report. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. The team at the Paranormal Report really appreciates your support.